actually.
Pack it up, pack it in, let us begin. It's a chill out Sunday. It's a mock draft Sunday here for us. AJ Goncalves, Traver Cox, Sebastian Friar here, downtown Phoenix, Arizona, the site for the greatest podcast on earth. I want to talk to you, gentlemen, about this. First off, how are you doing on this? What is it? A star-studded Sunday. How are you guys doing today?
I'm having a great Sunday. Just finished up watching that Florida UConn game. Got to say, I'm glad the Gators held on. That definitely helps our brackets out here, me and Sebastian. So, a lot of great basketball on today. I'm excited.
Walter Clayton Jr., man, the best player in the tournament so far, man. Those step-back threes, it's like watching prime Steph Curry play out there. It was a beauty. Florida survived UConn, but we're here on this cozy Sunday according to Traver right here. All sweats pulling up. AJ also in a chilled-out shirt. But let's do it, man. There's a lot of fun stuff we're going to do. Mock Draft 2.0. A lot of fun things are here up next.
So here's what we're going to do. March Madness, I want to save it for tomorrow. We are a football primary show. That is our focus. We are going to stick to that today on this Sunday. So all you NFL fans, get ready. We got you covered. We are going to give you some quick thoughts. Jameis Winston signs with the Giants. We may want to touch on that. Any other big free agent news, we may want to get to that as well. Tampa Bay Buccaneers rebuild, that's coming in today. And we will do the second mock draft. We had Ryan and Aiden join us for the first one. We'll stick to us three for the second one. And then we will probably do one more before draft day, I would think. We still have a month to go, so we'll definitely get one in. Guys, let's start. Give me your opening take today. I know Jameis Winston signed with the Giants. That's about it. Stephon Diggs visited with the Patriots this past week. Not really anything crazy after the initial free agent frenzy that we had.
Maybe I'll have a bit of a take about a different sport, not really NFL, but I don't really know what to talk about with NFL with the dead news week. So I'll just say I think this is the Thunder's title to lose. If we're talking about the NBA, I really think they should be far and away the favorites. I don't know if the Celtics should be close. That team's so complete. That team's so deep. That team probably has the MVP this year. I don't see a reason they should lose.
Well, obviously, speaking about the Thunder in that aspect, the Cavs right now, I believe, are still on a four-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Celtics are starting to catch up a little bit. They're on a four-game win streak themselves, so they're 5 games back from the Cavs. Thunder officially hold the best record in the NBA by themselves. They got the probably potential MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Chet Holmgren, I think, is a really good balance, a little 1-2 punch, great depth in that team. Yeah, according to that depth in that team and the record they got, yes, they should be by far away the favorites at least to get out of the West. But obviously, we know playoffs is a brand new field. Luka Doncic, LeBron James will have something to say about that.
I just think that team is built for the playoffs.
Oh, man, I agree with you. I'm agreeing with your take for sure. But once you get to the playoffs, different field. We obviously saw Luka basically single-handedly take him out last year. He's going to be paired up with LeBron this year. We know what LeBron does in the playoffs.
Yeah, they have no Josh Giddey on their team this year, though.
They don't, but I also think the best player in the league, Nikola Jokic, will also have something to say about that. He'll be probably in their way as well. So there's a couple of teams in the mix. Rockets a little bit too young, in my opinion. They're probably a little bit of frauds in the 2 seed in the West. But yeah, I do think the Thunder are for sure the favorites, in my opinion, to win the whole thing, as they should be according to the record and the way they play, having the best player in the league this season. But obviously the Celtics out in the East, I still think they're probably the reigning champs. Got to give them some respect. And the Cavs are probably starting to fade away. They're starting to remind me a little bit of those 60-win Hawks teams that really played good in the regular season, but then playoff time comes and then get a little bit exposed. But I think only time will tell with that story.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll touch on that, I guess. I wanted to do a football thing, but it's all good. I really want to get at that. I was wrong on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not going to really get into that. What I'm going to get into is I kind of fear the Thunder. I really do. Sorry, I had to get a sip in. I really fear the Oklahoma City Thunder. Here's why. When you play a guy like Luka Doncic, it seems to me that he doesn't really have the motor that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has. And what I mean by that is when I watch a guy like Doncic, he's terrific, don't get me wrong. If I'm starting a team, I might take Doncic over Alexander. But here's what I'm saying, okay? Doncic, when you watch him, it seems like at times when he's out there, at least to me, there's a couple possessions here and there where it's just – it's not a lack of effort. It's just the motor isn't high enough yet where he'll just chuck up a three. It just won't go. It'll be a horrible basket. It doesn't play both ways. And you get lost in transition. You're down 10 in like a breath of a heartbeat. Where with Alexander, it just feels like his motor is always going. And I don't feel that with Alexander. Like there's no ever like garbage buckets, anything like that. Everything he does, it's 100% high motor, both ways on the floor. Especially his offense, like he just hits like the shots where you're just like, come on. At least when I was watching him against the Celtics, I think it was 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago now, I'm just like, come on. Like hitting like crazy shots. Like I'm scared of this Thunder team. I am. But I would still give the edge to the Celtics because they're defending champions, number one. And number two, I think they got something to prove. I really do.
I think the health is the thing that worries me the most for the Celtics.
I think the health bugs me. I think, a little regression from a guy like Drew Holiday, that worries me some. Maybe he's just saving his best stuff for the postseason.
Still a good defender, too.
100%. And we'll see in the playoffs because I think that's what the NBA is.
Yeah.
My second thing about some of your guys' NBA takes is don't sleep on Cleveland. Don't sleep on Cleveland. I mean, I know you guys, you think it's the Atlanta Hawks all over again.
I'm not out on Cleveland.
Yeah, I still think they have great depth. I mean, they've been incredible.
They have the Defensive Player of the Year.
I mean, it's one, a 2-week sample where they, just hasn't been as great as it once was when it was just really high. Maybe at this point for Cleveland, they're getting a little regression. I still think they're looking good for the 1 seed. It's going to be tough for Boston to have to go in there, actually, and play Cleveland. So I still give Cleveland a lot of credit. They're having a great season. I think, Kenny Atkinson, if I'm blanking on it, he should be the coach of the year, in my opinion. I don't think that's even close. I'm a big fan of this Cleveland team. I would love to see Cleveland and Boston. I think those are the two top teams in the East for sure. I think Boston right now, I'd give them the edge. But I think Cleveland, that would be a nice series. It really would. So I'm excited. The NBA, going to be good stuff. I mean, you may want to turn some of it off, but it's all good. I want to get to the NFL. Jameis Winston signed for the New York Giants. I kind of like it. I kind of do. I have a little – it's better than Aaron Rodgers for me, okay? I think it is with all just the off-the-field stuff. I think it's 100% better. I think Jerry Jeudy had his best year last year in the NFL with Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston, he throws the ball all over the place. I think a guy like Malik Neighbors will kind of smile, but – my question is, what are the Giants going to do in the future? This is a 1-year deal. This is what this is. Jameis Winston is not the face of the franchise. It's a bridge quarterback. What's the plan for the Giants? Are they drafting Shador at 3? That is the biggest question right now in the NFL. I think Cam Ward is a lock for number 1, and I think the Browns are definitely going to take Carter. What do the Giants do at 3? That's where the draft starts, in my opinion. Do they go? There's really 3 ways they can go about it. 1 is they take Shador Sanders and they get their quarterback. 2, you take Travis Hunter, you get Hunter and Malik Neighbors. I think that's another way you could look at it. Or 3, you trade down. If you're not 100% sold on Sanders, which is fine, you trade down, you get draft picks. I'm curious to see where that goes. I'd give the signing like a C+ for Jameis Winston. I mean, I'm not a fan. He's a really nice guy, and I'm sure there'll be some funny moments throughout the season next year for him. But I don't think it's really going to work out. I think Neighbors is going to, have a good season once again. I mean, he proved to you last year that he could win with guys like Drew Lock at quarterback, and he could still play. So I'm not worried about him at all. A lot of people are worried about it. I'm not. I think he's going to have a good year again. C+ for me.
I mean, I'll give it a C+ as well. There's not really much I feel that we can, give a high or bad grade on this. This is a bridge guy. The reason I'm giving it a C+ is because he feels like he's good for the locker room, and like you said, a lot better than Rodgers for the locker room. So, yeah.
In my opinion, with Jameis Winston, obviously we know the guy he is. He's just never going to be a guy that's going to go out there and manage the game, take care of the football. No, he's going to be a gunslinger mentality. He's always going to try to push the ball down the field. He's going to try to give the playmakers a chance to make plays. So I think he's a high-tier NFL backup quarterback. But if you want a guy to come in there and take care of the football and manage the game, he's just simply not your guy. But the Giants are simply not in that position because we have no idea what their quarterback room is really going to look like come week 1. So I think Jameis Winston, honestly, I don't mind signing him over Russell Wilson. I don't mind signing him over Aaron Rodgers. I think it's a guy that's going to be good for the locker room. Very little drama is going to come. And I think Jameis Winston, he doesn't expect to be a starter. I think there's rumblings with Russell Wilson that he says, I want to be a starter in the NFL for sure. And I don't really want to be a backup. Aaron Rodgers, for sure, we know that type of guy he is. He doesn't want to be a backup whatsoever. But I think Jameis Winston's going to come in there if you bring in a young quarterback, whether you pick one at 3 or later in the draft. Jameis can definitely coach him up. Jameis will definitely be a role model and example for that young quarterback. So, yeah, I really do like the signing out of all the quarterbacks available out there. I don't mind the Giants making, this move. Obviously, it's not a league-shattering move or a league-altering move. I don't think it's different of the Giants tomorrow than I did think, of them yesterday prior to signing Jameis Winston. But, it's a solid signing. It's about an average one, so I'll give it a C. Nothing really crazy, but I think it's a solid one just to fill out the quarterback room.
Okay, Jameis Winston. Any other NFL news, like free agent-wise, that you have your eyes on, and a particular free agent you want to see land? I have one, but if you guys have any, go ahead. Speak up. Forever hold your peace.
Man, I think it's pretty dried up in my mind, so give us what you got.
Are we talking about what, the NFL news?
Yeah, and like a free agent that's available that you have on your mind right now that you're waiting to see sign. there's one for me that it's
obviously
obvious.
we talked about Stephon Diggs. I think that's a surprising one that's still out there. There's a decent amount of backup quarterbacks that are also still out there, but nobody that should really start. One guy that's really surprising me, not really, but yet Stephon Diggs still being out there is definitely one that's really catching my eye. We obviously saw him visit the Patriots. That would just make too much sense. I just really don't know why there's not a deal done yet between Diggs and the Patriots. They got to get that done ASAP. But yeah, that's a guy that, let's be real. He was a big time player for Buffalo all his years there. Obviously, prior to that in Minnesota. Houston, he got off a solid start. Definitely didn't look like the number one receiver he's looked like in the past there with the Texans, but he was still a very solid, productive guy, especially in the red zone, catching a lot of touchdowns for them. So even coming off a torn ACL, definitely a guy that I would definitely take a chance on giving him a nice little 1-year deal.
I love Stephon Diggs. I loved him. I hated playing against him because he was so good and such a savvy route runner. Is he the same guy that he once was? Hell no. But I mean, last year with the Texans, when he played, he wasn't bad. He was pretty good. I mean, he just wasn't the number one guy anymore, but it's still a solid guy in the room to have. I would take him if I'm the Patriots. I mean, yeah, you want to stay away from a guy who wants the ball consistently. I get it with a younger quarterback, but Stephon Diggs, I think you would love it in New England for at least a year if he gets a good salary and good money. I think Stephon Diggs to the Patriots would make a lot of sense. I don't know if he wants to come here, though. That's the only thing. Or here, as in New England. I don't know if he wants to go there to Foxborough, freezing cold. He wants to do that whole thing again. I would think he's just waiting for a situation to line up like perfectly. I don't know if he wants New England. That's my thing with Stephon Diggs. There's a number of still good free agents out there. I mean, a guy like, for example, Keenan Allen, still waiting for a home. I think he's going to find one relatively soon. I could definitely see him, I don't know if it's the Chargers going back there because they just signed Mike Williams, but he's going to wind up somewhere. I mean, he's not done. His career isn't over. I mean, 2 years ago, he had a great season statistically. So I think he's still got some room. I think there's a lot of guys out there at this point in free agency who still have to find homes, and they're going to find them eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the remaining pool, and I'll talk about Brandon Scherf for a second here. I still think he could be a quality guard, a good interior leader for a young team, a young offensive line. I think I'm seeing on this article right now they have him going to the Seahawks. I would love that. They really badly need interior, and I feel like he's a guy that could play there for a couple of years at a pretty high level.
I want to see where Von Miller signs as well. I'm very curious about that.
He's coming home.
He might. I think he still will have an interested suitor, even though in Buffalo he couldn't touch a feather. So I'm very interested to see what happens there. All right, let's get to the rebuild, gentlemen. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 19th pick. It feels high for them considering they were really one play away from maybe going to Detroit, beating Detroit, and going to the NFC title game. Tampa Bay on the clock, pick 19. What are you guys doing? They re-signed Chris Godwin. And it looks like the Buccaneers have all things rolling. So you tell me it should be a seamless rebuild here.
I mean, I'm taking front seven here. Yeah, they still have some nice pieces in Vita Vea, Levante David's getting up there in age. Yaya Diaby's flash. I really like a lot of the pieces in their secondary. I think they're pretty complete, to be honest, but that front seven just lacks. If I'm at 19, I'm taking an edge rusher. They need one really bad.
Yeah, for the Buccaneers, obviously they lost Carlton Davis to the New England Patriots. I think quarterback is also a place that it could definitely address a need right there. Edge rusher, though, we definitely talk about it.
So good last year.
He sure was. But we also talk about Hassan Reddick out in the edge. I think that's a low risk, high reward type signing, but that can definitely go edge or corner, in my opinion, in the first round. Maybe best player available in that scenario. Offensively, you look at Baker Mayfield still there, Buck Irvin. You expect him to take even bigger strides next year as the lead back in that backfield. Mike Evans, he just seems to age very well, really. I mean, he just puts up great season after great season in the lock for a 1,000-yard receiving season every single year. You obviously have Chris Godwin, great to re-sign him, but let's hope after that gruesome ankle injury, he can definitely come back and still be a very effective player, which I believe he can definitely be. Cade On proved to be a very nice little underrated tight end weapon for them last year as well. The offensive line obviously has great pieces in Tristan Wirfs, but obviously depth can definitely be added there. They took Graham Barton in the first round last year, so don't expect definitely for them to go back and address a line once again. But yeah, I think it's going to be more so oriented towards the defense, which that's the reason why they got bounced out last year, because the defense could not buy a stop down the stretch. Baker Mayfield never got a chance to possess the ball to give the Bucs a chance to win that game. So yeah, you got to address that defense. I think the secondary got torched some parts last year. Also, obviously the front seven also can definitely be a big time improvement. You got Vita Vea right in the middle of that defense, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL as well. So yeah, I think edge and corner, if you patch up those two positions, I think the Buccaneers are going to be looking at a much better defense. I think a lot of pressure, though, is going to be on Todd Bowles because he's a defensive-oriented head coach. He's got to have that defense playing at a much higher level because let's be real, if Todd Bowles was just a defensive coordinator last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers instead of the head coach, he would be fired because that defense, the level they played last year was unacceptable. And, frankly, that's why they got bounced. Simply, Jaden Daniels torched them all game long, and they couldn't get off the field when they needed to get off the field. So, got to improve on that side of the ball, get pressure to the quarterback, create turnovers, create havoc, and you got to get off the field. Give Baker Mayfield a chance to win some games down the stretch, especially him and that explosive offense. Baker Mayfield with that gunslinger mentality. One of the better contracts, in my opinion, as well in the NFL. Baker Mayfield probably deserves a pay raise. What a player he is. Browns every single day. That trip for Deshaun Watson just looks worse and worse. Baker Mayfield is a borderline top 10 quarterback. Great player they got there. And I think the Buccaneers, as long as they patch up that defensive depth there, I think they got a great chance to roll into next year and make a deep playoff run.
Jason Light's a top 5 general manager in the NFL. I don't think it's close at this point. I think he's done extremely well. He invests well. He knows when to draft. He somehow gets guys to go back there way cheaper than they obviously should. The example I'll use is Chris Godwin. Somehow he goes back and he left probably $20-25 million on the table just to return to Tampa, which was, in my opinion, it was outrageous. I would have left for the money.
Well, no state tax. So.
Yeah, so you do have to factor that in. So I give Jason Light a lot of credit. He drafted so well last year. I mean, go look at the picks he had. Jalen McMillan, he turned it around in the second half. He looked awesome for the Buccaneers.
Was great.
Bucky Irving looks like a top 10 running back in the NFL already. He's that good. He was carrying the Buccaneers to wins there in the second half of the season. And Mike Evans, say what you want about him, Hall of Famer. I think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer if he continues this pace. Still another 1,000-yard season out of him. He is one of the most underrated receivers of all time. Mike Evans is that good. Super Bowl champion. Has done it all. Clutch when you need him to make a big catch. Doesn't fade away from a big moment. He's just awesome. And the only thing, I think that's just going to underappreciate his value is he plays in Tampa Bay. And it's just, I don't know why, but a lot of people do this like Tampa Bay dislike. But I think Brady going there, helping him win a Super Bowl, I think that helps his career a lot. I'll get to the Buccaneers rebuild. Defense. They got absolutely torched by, all right, quarterbacks. I mean, Jaden Daniels in the wild card's the exception. I mean, Spencer Rattler in the last week of the season last year had his way against that defense. They need to rebuild in the secondary. But there's not a guy I trust more than Jason Light. I mean, he did so well offensively, and over the years he's had so many good draft picks defensively. I think this will just be a seamless transition for him. One thing I would do is just continue to invest in the trenches, right? I mean, defense, it's going to be like a socks for Christmas draft for them. It's going to be offensive line. It's going to be defense.
I don't really see many. I only see one hole on that offensive line.
Yeah.
Just left guard.
Yeah, left guard. That's what I was thinking. Yep. So left guard, obviously invest there. I would say defense, we get some more pass rushers, start looking at linebackers. Guys like Levante David aren't going to last forever. Vita Vea is still fine for me, so that's all good. The secondary is where they need the help. They got torched at the end of the year there in the back end. If they get help in the secondary, this team is a sleeper in the NFC. They might be in my top 5 in the NFC. They'll be 5, but they might be top 5. They would be right there, right, a bubble team right there that in the playoffs you don't want to see. I'm telling you, that team was one play away from maybe going to the NFC title game.
Back-to-back years.
Do you think if they go back into Detroit there in that divisional round, do you think Baker Mayfield does a similar thing to what Jaden Daniels did? Do you think he goes in there and he lights up that defense? Because I actually do. With Mike Evans, with no Chris Godwin, obviously, but Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving, and Kate Otten. That guy's a sleeper, too, by the way. He's a good tight end. Makes big catches. He's good. The Buccaneers are looking really good. You don't want to play this team in the playoffs. Yeah. I think the Buccaneers and the Rams so far are big winners this offseason. If they have good drafts, that'll just solidify it. The guy I like on the offensive line, Traver's going to get a big kick out of it. Graham Barton, that guy's awesome. I was watching some of his film. He does everything so well. I mean, pass blocking, he's good.
He's a good. He can play wherever.
He's versatile. That's the big thing. I wanted him on the Ravens last year in the draft just because he can play almost every spot on the offensive line. Especially he's so powerful. Put him out in guard, center, right guard, and he does every single bit of those positions the right way.
All right. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rebuild. James,
like more of a retool.
James Pierce Jr. I like him a lot for Tampa Bay if he falls to 9 teams.
I would like if Michael Williams gets there. I would love that.
Well, you're going to find out where they go right now. How about that? We're going to do an NFL mock draft, folks. This is mock draft 2.0 for us. Happy to have you with us. So here's how this is going to work. So hold on. Who's picking 1?
You're picking 1. Traver's picking 2. I'm picking 3. And before we get started, I do have a little draft nugget. For the first time since the merger, this is the first time that every single NFL team owns their own first-round pick so far. There's no trades that have been made. Wow. Every team is picking in the first round. It's happened before. The last time every single team picked in the first round was 2019, but not every single team owned their own first-round pick. The Dolphins and the Texans swapped picks. But this time around, every team owns their picks. So far, no trades have happened. I'm sure that will change come draft night. But really, this deep in, normally we see at least a little movement in that top 5. Someone likes to trade out, get positioning. But no, it looks like we might have to wait till draft night to find out what teams want to trade up, what teams want to trade down.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, sweet. So let's get this thing started. So I'm going first.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sweet. All right. Listen. A lot of people want them to take Carter. A lot of people want them to take Hunter. Listen, there is no way that the Tennessee Titans, with Brian Callahan going into a lame duck year where he could get fired if they start out like crap, there is no way in hell they are sitting there with Will Levis as their week 1 starting quarterback. It's not happening. Forget it. Mason Rudolph's gone. This is an obvious pick for me. It's Cameron Ward, the University of Miami. I think it's definitely between the two quarterbacks. Right now, to me, it feels like a Cam Ward pick. They need a quarterback desperately. Go for it. Why not? If Cam Ward stinks, we can reevaluate this in a year. But for now, I think Travis Hunter could be a Hall of Famer. Abdul Carter could be fantastic. But this team desperately needs a quarterback. Their coach needs to save his job. The only way the coach is saving his job is if Cam Ward looks good, and they still suck. Give me Cam Ward, quarterback from the Miami Hurricanes. It's all about the U. Tennessee needs life in that building. There was just no life last year for the Tennessee Titans. They looked like crap. Everything was trending down. You get Cam Ward in there, things are going to be trending up. Fan base is going to be excited, rejuvenated for Titans football. They need a quarterback. Cam Ward, it makes too much sense for him not to be in Tennessee, for him actually to go to the Tennessee Titans. Nowhere else. Cam Ward needs to be a Titan at the end of this draft.
So I'm on the clock here for the Browns at 2. I'm really in between Hunter and Carter here just because I don't know if they're going to allocate this valuable of a pick to an edge rusher after how much money they just paid Myles Garrett. So I'm gonna go Travis Hunter. He can play corner or wide receiver. They're both massive needs for the Browns. So.
What I will say about the Browns, don't rule them out for quarterback either. I think that's a team that still is looking to invest in a quarterback. If they really like Shedeur Sanders or if they really like Cam Ward, they might do it. Obviously, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, that's just best player available at that scenario. So we'll see what ends up happening here at 3. The Giants, obviously, with Jameis Winston. It's an interesting pick. Once again, similar situation like you just said, Traver. They invested a lot in Brian Burns last year. They paid him a lot of money. They still have Kayvon Thibodeau out in the edge. They're still trying to get a little bit out of him. So I just don't think they can really afford in a year that, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen can both get fired to really invest a pick in Abdul Carter when they already have 2 players that they expect a lot out of in that position. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. They've been rumored to really like him throughout the whole offseason. I think that's the pick they're going to go. They need a young quarterback. Jameis Winston cannot start all 16, 17 games for you this season. Shedeur Sanders, I think, can come in there. Will definitely sell the New York media hype a lot, obviously with Deion Sanders being his father. And I think he can really manage that offense really well. I think him and Malik Nabers will have a big year together. Obviously, Shedeur made Travis Hunter look great throughout all of college. Same thing with Jimmy Horn Jr. I think Shedeur can go ahead and go into New York, get coached up by Brian Daboll, and sling that ball out there in his first year.
Okay, easy pick for me. If this happens, I am dancing the class.
Run the card
the following morning. It's Abdul Carter. Easy pick. Don't overthink this. They desperately need an edge rusher. I don't even think I have to explain it that much to you guys. I think everyone's in agreement here. Easy pick.
Best player available.
This is the dream scenario for the Patriots if it does happen. Or you could take Carter at 2, and I take Hunter at 4. The Patriots cannot possibly mess this up. They cannot possibly.
It's a scenario that I just think it's too likely to happen. Unless the Browns obviously want to shock us and do something, or the Titans still have not truly narrowed in on Cam Ward. But obviously, the way the offseason is going, the Titans have yet to address the quarterback room. Mason Rudolph's gone. There's no way they want to trot Will Levis out there week 1. And the Giants, same thing. They don't want to trot out Jameis Winston week 1. So I think it's just a likelihood of either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter being there is very, very clear, it looks like.
All right.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter.
I'm number 5 of the Jaguars. This one feels obvious, too. I'm running the card in. It's Mason Graham. That interior has been so bad for years. They just need something, man. And he's an absolute beast. Run stopper, pass rusher, he does it all.
Well, obviously, here we are with the Las Vegas Raiders at 6. I think there's a lot of things happening. Well, AJ put Genty. I don't know if I want to take Ashton Genty here. I'm not going to lie. It's a pick at 6 that's, can get a little bit interesting. I think there's a lot of holes that they could still go ahead and address. I'm going to go ahead and pull up here the Raiders depth chart. I know they try to address the running back position earlier this offseason. They want to go ahead and get Raheem Mostert, but obviously you want to pair him with something else here. Wide receiver room also needs help. You go McMillan here. The offensive line's doing pretty decent. I don't know if they want to go there. Tyler Warren's another pick. You want to probably not go there because you went obviously with Brock Bowers last year. It's tough, I'm not going to lie, with the Raiders in this spot because obviously quarterback room could still be something, but both Shedeur is gone. Obviously, they invested a lot in Geno Smith, so probably not going to go there either. So the Raiders really have done a good job addressing everything. It's going to come down probably between McMillan and Genty. Best player available, who is it? Do you choose McMillan to pair up with Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, or do you choose Genty? You know what, AJ? I told you I'm not so sure on Genty, but after Raheem Mostert struggled to stay healthy the last couple seasons, they do definitely need some insurance there. They really haven't gone and addressed that depth at the running back position this free agency. They sure could do that later on in the draft, but I'm going to go ahead and give them Ashton Genty. Why not? Obviously, the explosive, the exciting pick at 6. The Raiders with trading for Geno Smith, I think it's a move that they're pretty much telling everyone we're trying to win some football games here early on with Pete Carroll. Give him a running game out there with Ashton Genty. I think the offensive line is patched up pretty decently. They'll trust Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers to do the dirty work. In the receiving game, probably address some more needs in the receiving game down the stretch in the draft. But I think they really like Ashton Genty just to take the best player available at that position.
Okay. So Ashton Genty got at 6 to the Raiders. I think Pete Carroll's a run-first guy, and he's going to need a running back, and Ashton Genty's his guy. If they want to go short-term, like I think they're going, Ashton Genty's a great pick for them. All right, Jets at 7. So I'm kind of stuck between two things here. They need an offensive tackle. Will Campbell's the best one of those on the board. Tyler Warren's probably the best playmaker for me on the board. Warren here is a little too early. I'm going to go Will Campbell for now, but in 2 weeks, I might change my mind. If we get closer to the draft day, I think they'll easily take Tyler Warren, but I think you have to go with the best player on the board in these drafts, especially in these early picks. Like, you have to hit on these picks, like when you're in a top 10 team. I think Will Campbell's the best offensive lineman. They need the position. It makes too much sense. Give me Will Campbell.
This is a bit of a tough one for the Panthers here. I'm not going to go skill position. I do want to go right tackle, so I'm just going to do it. I think I don't know if this is super likely or possible, but they need to solidify that right tackle spot. Armand Membu would be, I feel like, a franchise cornerstone for them at right tackle. So that's the pick I'm making.
Interesting right there. No edge rusher for the Panthers. So we're going to go Membu here for the Panthers at 8. 9, the Saints pick. Saints obviously are a team with a plethora of needs, really a big variety of them. McMillan is there, which is really tempting because obviously the Chris Olave's future is still, up in the air with concussions. Looks like he's going to come back, but how long will he truly be there? There's also needs at cornerback after trading away Marshawn Lattimore. Really a lot of places the New Orleans Saints could go here. I'm going to go ahead and just give them McMillan. I think they want to go ahead and get that big-bodied receiver in there, at least to pair up with Chris Olave, the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion, right there. He just fell through to them right in their laps. At 9, I think they're just going to go ahead and address that need. They're obviously investing a lot in Derek Carr, saying you're going to go ahead and be our quarterback this year. So to me, in my mind, the Saints still want to go out and win some games. Kellen Moore's looking for another playmaker there. Maybe get it his own little version of A.J. Brown, big-body receiver in there. In McMillan, pair up with Olave in there, and obviously Shaheed in there, who also has a lot of speed. So I think they need that big-bodied receiver, and they go ahead and secure McMillan.
So this is actually tougher than it looks, okay? The Bears are up at 10. You would think they need a tackle. You would think. They kind of addressed it in free agency. So I'm actually going to stay away.
They don't need a line.
Yeah. So to me, it's Will Johnson. Do they need a corner?
Tyreek Stevenson was still playing.
Also, I think you want to look at no edge rushers still off the board, so that they want to go outside of Abdul Carter, obviously. So yeah, if they want to go with the edge rusher outside of Abdul Carter, I think all those guys are there. A lot of them have top 10 potential.
Pair up against Montez Sweat.
Yep.
So I think that's the obvious. I think this is a sleeper for Tyler Warren. I am not a Cole Kmet guy. I've seen the movie too many times.
I think he's about to be unlocked, man.
Okay.
Well, Johnson there.
We also saw the Lions back in the day, obviously, trade T.J. Hawkinson and trust with drafting Sam Laporta. So could we see something like that with Cole Kmet? Could they trade away Cole Kmet and take Tyler Warren? Obviously, time could tell. But the Lions, back in the day, they weren't afraid to trade a tight end that looked like a big-time tight end and, pick their own in the draft. Maybe Ben Johnson wants to follow the same formula.
I think I would do it. I think I would do that. I can't do it here because I can't trade Cole Kmet on top of
exactly,
it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Shamar Stewart. I think that's the best guy on the board here. They don't need a corner. I like the idea of doing that, though. I'm not a Cole Kmet guy, but I will give him a chance if Ben Johnson wants to. So I'll go ahead. I'll take Shamar Stewart, the Texas A&M edge rusher. That'll be the 10th pick in the draft. But, again, that's a trade-down spot, too, for the Bears. They want to recoup, continue to build that defense. That's one idea. Or the other idea is I would take Tyler Warren. But, again, too early.
So I'm picking at 11 here for the 49ers. Obviously, the team that has a lot of needs has lost a lot this offseason, but I'm just going to go BPA at a big need. I'm going Will Johnson here at 11. They really need cornerback after Traver Ward walked in free agency, so I'm going to keep it simple.
Interesting right there. 49ers are going to choose to address the offensive line later on in the draft. Obviously, now here picking for me.
Just feels like best player available.
Yeah, it could be a 12. Obviously, Will Johnson, a couple injury things are also playing him a little bit because I feel like Will Johnson would for sure be a top 6 pick if he played 100%. Last year cleanly. So here, Cowboys at 12. Obviously, we had Zach Martin retire on them. There's still a lot of needs in that offensive line, and that's probably where they still have to go. Look at the board here. Obviously, Kelvin Banks is still available out of Texas. Maybe they choose to stay there. Tyler Booker is also available if they want to address just the interior right away. Tyler Warren, if Jerry wants to do a little flashy pick and get another weapon for his boy Dak Prescott. In this situation, you still have to pay Micah Parsons, so I don't think they go edge. I'm going to go ahead and give him Kelvin Banks. I think they'll just keep the local kid out there in Texas, in the state of Texas, off to Dallas right there. Address the offensive line, Kelvin Banks, and obviously you can plug and play him in different parts of that offensive line. And Jerry's definitely not afraid to address that offensive line early in draft, so I'm going to go ahead and give him Kelvin Banks.
So I have the Dolphins here, and this is why I don't like not re-signing Javon Holland here, because now I need a safety too, so it just adds on to the need. Holland went pretty cheap, by the way. That was a good signing for the Giants. So what I'm thinking here is they don't need a tight end, so Warren's off. They do need a guard, so Tyler Booker's definitely a candidate for this pick.
Yes.
They definitely need an offensive tackle. I think, they're going to be building on the offensive line. Safety, another need for this team, desperately. I think they go into that, but I wouldn't do it if I'm them. If I'm them, I go ahead and I take the best player on the board. The best player on this board is Jalen Walker for me. I would take Jalen Walker. I think he can do it all. Those Georgia guys, you never doubt them. I think they desperately need some speed there in that defense. They actually weren't too bad. They just continue to build that. I think this defense could be pretty good. So I'll take Jalen Walker. I'll stay away from guard for the moment. I just like taking the best player on the board in these drafts.
All right, can I see who's picking 14?
Oh, sorry, my bad. The Indianapolis Colts.
All right, Colts. All right, you run the card in here. It's Tyler Warren. They need a tight end so bad. You cannot trot out Mo Alley Cox as your number one tight end when you have a young quarterback that's trying to develop, and Tyler Warren would be a perfect safety blanket for Anthony Richardson.
You screw up a little bit. Who did the Niners pick early on?
The 49ers took Will Johnson.
All right, so obviously here I'm picking at number 15 for the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, I think edge rusher is a big need that they still have to address at that position. There's a couple guys and a plethora of guys that could be available for him there. Also for the Falcons, I think receiver could also be a little bit of a sleeper pick. I think we had receiver for the Falcons going in that first mock draft we did, if I'm not completely mistaken.
I believe it was Luther Burden.
Yeah, Luther Burden could go there, but I don't think they'll probably quite go and address there. Obviously for the Dolphins, you just took Jalen Walker out of Georgia. So the edge rushers that are available, Mike Green, also a guy that's still there. James Pierce Jr. is also still there. I think those two guys are probably the obvious picks. The Falcons struggled to get, pass rush all year long for themselves last year. So I'm going to go ahead and take Mike Green, a guy that was really good throughout all the whole Senior Bowl process, and I think still had a very solid combine. I think he can go in there, be an effective player right away, put up big numbers. He put up huge numbers back out there. And back in Marshall, he put up a lot of big numbers. He got to the quarterback consistently. He showed it on the film, on the field. Stats backed it up right there. Mike Green, edge rusher. Marshall, I think the Falcons addressed that pass rushing need, and Mike Green is right there for them at 15. Great pick, great value.
Easy for me. Michael Williams from Georgia is going to the Arizona Cardinals here. This if it falls the way it is, it'll be a run on edge rushers, which I like. I think Williams is a very good, another Georgia guy. I'm a big fan of all the Georgia guys.
He's going to be a freak. I don't see any reason his style can't rise the way Trayvon Walker's, to be honest.
Yeah, I would go ahead here and I would take Williams. You have Sweat on that defensive line. They want to create pass rush. That would be freaky if they got Josh Sweat in there with Michael Williams.
That'd be fun.
That would be a fun pass rush, and the outlook on this team would just be even better. I would take Michael Williams. Definitely between Williams and Pierce Jr., I'll go take Michael Williams.
All right. So I believe I'm on the clock here, 17. The Bengals, obviously a lot of holes on that defense, especially if they don't end up extending Trey Hendrickson. But it feels like best player available here. Obviously, they need guard. I'd like to take Tyler Booker here, but it feels like they really, really, really badly need to prioritize the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go Malachi Starks here at 17. Get a guy up top that can, maybe prevent the big play because it seems like the Bengals gave up the big play a lot last year.
I like that pick a lot. Traver definitely got to prioritize that need right there. And right here, I'm just going to go ahead and run up the card. Tyler Booker's going to be the pick here for the Seattle Seahawks. Just makes
that'd
too
be a
much
home
sense.
run.
That's a home run right
That's
there.
Home run.
You're at 18, you get the player. He took Malachi Starks there at 17, but you get the player you won at 18. You address a huge need. Tyler Booker's a great player. He's going to do great things in the NFL. Going to plug him in right away. He's going to play at a high level, and you got to protect Sam Darnold and get that running game going a little bit as well. Tyler Booker, 18 at the Seahawks.
James Pierce Jr. is going 19. This is exactly what I'd want if I'm Tampa here, right? Yeah, they desperately needed an edge rusher. The best player on the board here is James Pierce Jr. So why don't you give me him? Again, that pass rush, all about the pass rush. You're going to see a run on pass rush in this draft, especially after what the Philadelphia Eagles did in that Super Bowl. James Pierce Jr., absolute beast. Give me him at 19 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It just makes too much sense.
All right, at 20 here, I'm picking for my home team, Denver Broncos. I really want to pick Matthew Golden. I am really in between two players here. I'm going to get your guys' help on this one. I'm going to phone a friend. Do you think wide receiver or running back's a bigger need?
Hampton's there, which is really tempting, right? But also you have guys like Luther Burden are still there. Matthew Golden. We have yet to pick a second receiver as well. You have Cortland Sutton, who's a big body guy, but you have a lot of burners here. You have Burden, Matthew Golden.
Mims showed potential.
I think Sean Payton wants to run the football. I think he wants his own little version of Kamara in there. He's not going to go out there and run it back with that backfield unless he wants to address it later on.
Unless he wants to give Estimate playing time, which but it clearly showed that he didn't.
It also depends because the running back depth in this class is a lot better than the receiving depth in this class. So if he feels like he can address it round 2, you could also go ahead and choose wide receiver. It's falling really well.
I'll go in that direction. I feel like the board's fallen better for a receiver. Maybe if Genty was all the way down here at 20, I'd take him, but it just feels a little rich. I'll take Matthew Golden here for the Broncos at 20. I know that was a pick last mock draft, but that just feels like an absolute home run. Slot guy, great route runner. We'll just add a whole nother dimension of this Broncos offense.
I would take a Matthew Golden there, too. That's not even I don't even think that's a heartbeat question. I would. You can get running backs later, especially in this class. If you think Matthew Golden's going to be an elite receiver, you take him there. It's a slam dunk. Bo Nix gets a star at wide receiver.
And the what is it? They call it the Denver Longhorns continues, man.
I would
keep getting Texas players.
I don't even think it's a tough one. It's either him or another wide receiver for me.
Well, you can find running backs obviously later on in the draft, but I think Hampton clearly separated himself from the rest of the bunch as well.
He's
I definitely do think it's up there in the debate in terms of taking Omarion Hampton. He's a great player, but Matthew Golden obviously had a great combine, definitely up there for debate. But the Steelers here at pick number 21, obviously we saw them address a wide receiver need with DK Metcalf. Quarterback is an interesting one you might think about going. I would not be shocked if the Steelers shock us here and take Jackson Dart. I'm not going to go in that direction. I feel like the Steelers are going to try to get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is bound to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and they're going to try to keep convincing themselves that they're going to try to compete. So I think they're going to try to, address the need, put that right in there right now. Obviously, you could take maybe a tackle there. But, Josh Jameis is there. I think might have given that one to them in the previous mock draft. Not going to do it in this time around. Safety could be something here that could be interesting. Obviously, last year, cornerback could be another one. We still have Barron still there. Amos from Ole Miss is still there. We have
Harrison, I think, is sneaking around one.
Nick Manori is still there, which is really interesting as well. Minka Fitzpatrick also looked a little bit gassed down the stretch last year. If they want to add a really dynamic player, they could go Manori here. I think they're going to try to pay Joey Porter Jr. I think they're going to try to bear him up with another corner. I'm going to go ahead and take Barron out of Texas going here.
That's great value.
Yeah, to the Steelers. We had him going to the Texans in our previous mock draft. He goes 4 picks earlier this time around. I think they're just going to try to patch up that secondary. Barron to the Steelers.
Colston Loveland to the LA Chargers. That'd be my thought. Michigan guy, Harbaugh. It just makes too much sense. The Cards line up. They desperately need a tight end. There's no way Will Dissly is going to be their number one tight end heading into next year. I think it just makes too much sense. I think the Cards align perfectly. I think Harbaugh is going to give the Michigan factor. It's a guy you can put in there, a tight end, one of his guys that you can just have out there. I just think it makes too much sense over a defensive tackle. I think Harbaugh loves a tight end, and Herbert desperately needed one last year. Colson Loveland makes too much sense. Give it to me. Lock it in.
I'm not going to lie. As a Chargers fan, I would be pretty disgusted with that pick, especially the direction that team's going right now. I think they need more dynamic playmakers. It is a Michigan pick. It makes sense why you said, the Harbaugh, Michigan connection, Loveland. I can definitely see that happening. It's not, crazy. I think they just need more dynamic playmakers. You see Luther Burden on the board still there. You see even Hampton on the board still there. You don't want to run out Najee Harris and give him the bulk load of the carries. But Loveland makes sense, obviously. Michigan guy. Harbaugh knows him.
And it's a deep running back
And,
class.
yeah, it's a deep running back class. And the Greg Roman type of football, it is a Chargers pick. So I think based on the Chargers mindset, it makes a lot of sense what you said.
That's what I'm trying to think here.
All right, so I'm on the board here with the Packers at 23. This is a guy Aiden's been telling me a lot about, and I know they just got that kid out of, I can't remember his name for the life of me now, but Edgerrin Cooper last year. He was absolutely great for them, but I think they go front seven again, maybe. I'll switch it out. We'll take Nick Emenwari here at 23 for the Packers. Just an absolute athletic freak, maybe the best athlete left on the board. They just need players. He could probably play some nickel and over top. So I think that's a good pick for the Packers. Solidify that defense.
Well, here the Vikings at 24. They already addressed the running back needs so far this offseason, bringing back Aaron Jones and also as well bringing in Mason from the 49ers via trade. So I think running back officially ruled out there. Receivers, obviously, they're very good with Justin Jefferson in alongside Jordan Addison. They got TJ Hawkinson out there. They obviously are trusting JJ McCarthy this year as well. Where do you look at to go here? You could go definitely in the secondary. I think it'd be a place that the Vikings need to desperately improve on as well. There's good value, a little bit of, Jihad Campbell's still there.
I like that for them off-ball linebackers.
Yeah, I know that could be really interesting. I'm really tempted because Jihad Campbell is great value here at 24. It might be too good to pass up on here. And just looking at the cornerbacks, I don't think it's a big-time cornerback class in terms of taking one in the first round. You have Trey Amos there. I can see Siobhan Ravel maybe sneak in there. Maxwell Hairston, that could also see him sneaking in there. But you know what? I'm going to take Maxwell Hairston here. I think they're just going to address that cornerback need right away. I think they're going to try to patch up that secondary. I think Hairston's a very solid player, and I think they're going to like him here at 24.
Okay. Let's see. I have the Houston Texans. They're going offensive line here.
Josh Simmons.
They have wiped out their entire offensive line. That means they're going all in on this offensive line in the draft. They must love it.
I mean, they have to.
So I think Josh Simmons is probably the obvious, unless they like Sable more. I don't know.
More versatile, but
I would probably go Josh Simmons here, national champion. They need a vet. They need someone who can go in there day one and actually play a position. So I think Josh Simmons. It just makes too much sense.
26. I do want to sit here and take Campbell. I also want to get weird and maybe take a quarterback to sit behind Stafford. Feels like a pick that I've been seeing mocked for years now with Stafford continuing to get up there in age. As tempting as a Jackson Dart selection might be, I'm going to go Jihad Campbell. They need linebacker way too bad. They need off-ball linebacker way too bad, especially losing Ernest Jones not this offseason, but last. So I would like this addition for them. I feel like it would make that defense even better and even more fun to watch.
I love that pick right there, Traver Campbell, right into that young defense. I think it would be definitely really exciting to watch. Ravens here at 27. I'm going to go ahead and take the edge rusher out of Boston College, Donovan Izuraku. I think he's just the obvious pick. Produced at college, the numbers showed it. I think he's also a guy that can really be an athletic freak for the Ravens, can produce right away. They need edge rusher help, especially got to get younger at that position. Calvin, I know he's not getting any younger with Dafe always entering a contract year. Donovan Izuraku would definitely add the depth needed right there, a rookie contract, a guy that produced so much at Boston College. I love that pick. Great value for the Ravens at 27.
Yeah. Hey, great pick, dude. I wonder who did that one last time.
Yeah.
All right, so Detroit is on the clock here at pick 28. So there's different ways I can see this Lions team going. I think they need some defense, obviously, after what we saw in the divisional round and the injuries. I think this is a play for them to just take the best player on the board. I really do. I think Emeka Ibuka and Luther Burden both could be that in that caliber here.
That conversation for sure.
I think I would go with one of those guys. I would pair Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just make it too hard. You're going to make this thing way too hard.
That's a track team right there on offense.
That's a triple, and then you have the running game. Then you have Sam
Laporta. I don't even want to see Luther Burden on the lines. That'd be disgusting.
And next to Jago,
he might go for 2,000 from scrimmage.
So that's my thing.
Jet touch
so do I think who's better, Luther Burden or Emeka Ibuka? I'd have to think about that.
I would probably go Luther Burden.
Yeah, I was going to say
the versatility.
More,
yeah, because they need a guy. Luther Burden's comp is like Deebo Samuel, if I'm not mistaken.
Ibuka feels a lot like, I know I've been seeing this a lot of draft circles. It just feels a lot like he's going to play in the slot in the NFL. That is the reality of him. So,
okay, so yeah,
I think you take Burden, higher upside,
rat
guy.
I'll trust you guys. They're going to take a wide receiver here. It just feels a little obvious to me. I don't know. I know they love versatility there. So my skill
position. I could see another position I could see them addressing here would be interior offensive lineman with a guy like Walter Nolan available, just because McNeil had a big time injury last year, especially if they want to shore up the depth in that front seven. They suffered a lot of injuries there, so they could definitely go there.
I like Nolan or Harmon.
The Lions right here at 28, like you just mentioned, AJ, it's just a position of riches right there. They're a very complete roster, and they could easily just take the best player available. And Luther Burden's fallen so much in this mock draft, it could easily happen.
Luther Burden, give it to me.
All right, 29. I'm sprinting this card up if I'm the Commanders. Amari and Hampton. Brian Robinson Jr. is a cool power back, but he cannot be your number one bell cow.
Yeah, that completely makes sense right there. Bills here at 30. Obviously, wide receiver still could be a need there, but I think Shakir might be a little bit of their slot guy, so I don't know if I like quite Ibuka going there to the Bills at 30. It's an interesting spot here for the Bills. Edge rusher could still be in need here. Nick Squirton still there for them. It's a top position to be there for them to be in.
There's a couple really good players that are going to fall out of the first round.
Yeah, I know Walter Nolan is still there as well. Yeah. Do they really need the interior offensive lineman here? Let's take a look at the Bills depth chart, exactly what they need here. They obviously went a lot younger defensively last year. They obviously have Ed Oliver commanding that interior offensive lineman. They have Greg Russo, so they could still go by Trusher.
Cyrus Torrance was good, but I think they still need left guard.
Yeah, they could still obviously use an interior offensive lineman as well if they want to obviously keep running those QB sneaks with Josh Allen. Maybe they can get him against the Chiefs this time around. Gray Zabel's still there as well. It's a tough need for the Bills. I'm going to take Nick Squirton out of Texas A&M. I think they're just going to go ahead and just shore up the edge rushing need there a little bit. Just, you'll have to have really rotational players right there at those positions of need in edge rushers. So keep getting guys in and out fresh. I think Nick Squirton can be a guy that can learn a lot from Greg Russo.
100%.
I think the next.
That would be a great pick.
Sorry. I think the next two are trade downs. I think I could definitely see both teams trading down here. You have to like a player a lot on this board. That's my thing.
I think the Chiefs need offensive line.
Yeah, and I think there's great value at offensive line right here. Great value.
So,
I love the pick I've seen Moses that I did last mock draft. Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon tackle.
I could also see Zabel.
Yeah, I'm thinking Zabel because they need a guard.
And he's versatile, man.
They love versatility. So Joe Tooney was Mr. Versatile. So they go from one versatile tackle to another, or actually a guard. Excuse me.
And unfortunately, he'll probably end up being great for them.
So
that pick's gonna happen.
He'll be an All-Pro year one.
Yeah, so it's gonna happen.
I'll probably take Zabel there.
No, it's gonna happen in real life now. Just goes. All right, I'll look at the Eagles. AJ mentioned for the Lions. This feels like really just a luxury pick. The roster's so complete, it's gross. But if I had to go somewhere here, I guess I'll grab another defensive lineman. Why not make that trench even more formidable? I don't even want to see Walter Nolan and Jalen Carter lining up at the 2-3 tech positions against me on third down. That would make me poop my pants if I was a quarterback. I would probably just leave, call a timeout, get someone else in the game, man. That'd be fun to watch. We've seen these guys, too, with character concerns go to the Eagles and figure it out. So I'm going to go Walter Nolan here at 32. Feels like maybe the most talented guy on the board.
Imagine also sneaky pick here, Emeka Egbuka to pair up with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown out of that slot. I think that's a guy that can definitely make it work out there in Philly. Right there, if they just feel like getting the richer get richer right there, I think Emeka Egbuka could also be a guy that could go 32.
I would have taken, I don't know, it's close. They love their D-line.
I just like the talent and Nolan. It just feels like
they love the depth in that D-line.
Especially with a guy like Milton Williams leaving now.
They now have a hole at D-line.
Yeah, so it would make sense for them to just go out and find the next.
Well, not a hole, but an Eagles hole.
Well, yeah,
Howie Roseman.
Milton Williams was really good, so
that's definitely
right. Too. So it makes sense.
A really good player, great value there.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, thoughts on the mock draft, guys?
I like everything. I think if I had to go back, I'd probably take an edge at 8 for the Panthers, but I do like Membu still. That would literally just shore up their offensive line for 4 or 5 plus years. So
this was a messy one. I'm not gonna lie to you guys because I think obviously after free agency, teams start to shore up some needs. Obviously, I think a lot of teams obviously start thinking best player available in some of these situations. Obviously, I think Membu might be sneakily going ahead of Will Campbell in the draft. I just feel like I have that, feeling, especially if you want to talk about pure tackles. I feel like if the Jets truly need a pure tackle, I think they might trust Membu over Will Campbell. I would also have the Panthers taking an edge rusher at 8. I think they want to shore up that defense a lot more. I feel like they feel pretty content with the investments they made at offensive line last year. 49ers at 11, I would definitely have them going offensive lineman instead of Will Johnson. But Will Johnson also makes sense. They need cornerbacks. But I think, protecting Brock Purdy and getting that running game with CMC, especially they're pretty much putting their whole trust on CMC coming up this season, trading Mason away. I think they want to keep them healthy. They want to make sure those rushing lanes are there for them. I think the big emphasis for them, especially losing Debo, Ayuk, you never know how he's going to come back. They want to run the football next year. I think offensive lineman has to happen there. A guy like Kelvin Banks would have still been there. Dolphins at 13, they lose Javon Holland. They could go safety. I think you can see Jalen Walker for sure out there, but it's really tough to pass on a guy like Nick Manwari and Malachi Starks when they're just right there in front of you. Replacing a guy so dynamic like Javon Holland right away at 13, I think it definitely happened right there. Besides that, the back end, I like it. I think the back end of the draft, I think it was great value. I feel like Jihad Campbell at 26, obviously with the Rams, Josh Simmons at 25 with the Texans, too much sense right there. But yeah, I think in the back end we did a good job finding good value.
I mean, I think if I could do it over again, I'd probably go Booker for the Niners. That just makes too much sense, especially with Banks leaving. Maybe I'd go Stewart for the Panthers, maybe Walker. But I mean, I feel like I had a pretty good draft, and at the end of the day, it's just an exercise.
We'll have one more, and obviously we see the NFL draft. I mean, we saw Michael Penix with the Falcons.
There's zero chance we'll be able to
the
get
unthinkable
this right.
always happens. We're gonna see a guy we're shocked. We're gonna, our jaws are gonna drop really in the top 10. A couple guys are just gonna sneak in there. A couple other guys are gonna drop. Gentry could go as high as 6, and they could drop in the 20s
out,
too.
Man, I think Hampton could go top 10. Man, I really do.
I think my comparison with Hampton, not in terms of a player, but in terms of positioning. Jahmyr Gibbs. We thought Jahmyr Gibbs would probably go maybe around 25, not even day 2. I think back into the first round in the 20s, and he ended up going high in the 10s. So Marion Hampton, I think if Gentry especially goes here to the Raiders here at 6, I think a lot of teams between 10 and 18ish, a lot of teams can start taking a chance there.
I'd say look out for Hampton at 10, man. I don't like DeAndre Swift. I don't think he's a good runner.
I like
and
that
Ben Johnson knows that DeAndre Swift isn't a good runner.
Yep,
so
I was thinking
look out
about
for that. Yeah.
I like that too.
I like that idea. I like the idea of Warren there at 10. If they trade out Kmet and you just get a better, younger version. Like I think their offense gets a lot better really fast.
I like that too.
I think he's better than Cole Kmet, so I think that's one thing to watch. One thing I'm watching too is Jackson Dart. I mean, like a team like the Chargers, right? Again, can I get Colson Loveland later? Yeah, probably. So I would trade out. We didn't do trade out, so that's why we stuck with our picks and we stuck to it. Yeah. If I'm the Chargers, I would trade out there. I could probably get Colson Loveland later. And hope one of those teams in the 20s and 30s likes Jackson Dart a bit, or maybe a team that went earlier, missed out on a quarterback like the Jets. If they love Jackson Dart, they can just climb back in, or vice versa, right? If the Giants decide to go Travis Hunter and they like Jackson Dart or whoever, you can go in there and take them. So.
I'm circling the Eagles pick at 32. We obviously talked about them really just adding players to add players just for depth because the roster is pretty complete. The Eagles, back in the day, obviously 2018, traded out at 32, so the Ravens traded up for Lamar Jackson because something like that happened this year. Eagles could trade out at 32, and a team like maybe the Rams could jump up, or a team maybe like the Browns. Maybe the Browns love Dart, but not enough to take him at 2. Browns could jump up, take Jackson Dart. They made it Milrow. Oh, man, Milrow going to the first round would be something else. What would that be? That would be a controversial pick.
I got to say, I feel like if any of these quarterbacks are going to sneak into the first round, it's not Sanders or Ward because they're locks for first round, obviously. I feel like it's got to be Milrow just because of the tools.
I think Dart also has tools. I just think Milrow didn't prove enough to know how to play quarterback position in college. I think it's a little bit of a comparison with Malik Willis. I think teams are a little bit low on him just because he looks so funky playing quarterback at college. Milrow, round 2, could definitely see it. I think Milrow, my final prediction for him is probably going to be round 3.
Yeah, but like I said, I could see Dart there, 26 to the Rams.
Pittsburgh Steelers still look out for them. I think the Steelers desperately need to address that. I think if Barron's a good pick for them, but I don't think it's like a desperate need for them at cornerback. If I could go back, maybe take Dart, I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers chose to go that direction.
Yeah, so again, I think if we get trades into this, I think it gets a lot freakier, and I think you get a lot of weirder picks. I think you're more likely and more inclined to get a Dart in the first round. Jackson Dart, not an actual Dart. But outside of that, I think it was okay. I thought we did a good job. I don't think it was too hard. I mean, things have changed definitely from the first one. It's amazing how it's happened. But I think from now, even in 2 weeks from now, I think we'll get some big changes. I think there'll be some things, some clues that you'll get. And we'll just be looking at this saying, wow, we took so-and-so at whatever pick. And you'll look back and you'll say, well, that was pretty wrong. So we'll see.
We might have to aim for 2 more mock drafts, maybe 1-2 weeks from now, and then one final one, maybe a couple days before the draft, maybe that Monday before the draft week. Maybe we could do that there. So
I like that.
Yeah, we're about a month exactly. It's in April 23rd is the start of the draft.
I'm getting into real tape grinding season here. Absolutely. Started the tackles. So.
Hey, there you go. You're gonna grind into your offensive lineman. We're exactly a month out from the draft as well, but. It's been a lot of fun, guys.
There's great talent here in the second round, too, that we were looking at that board. A guy like Emeka Ibuka.
There's so many guys that could have gone first round. Derek Harmon, even, out of Oregon. I want to talk about him. He's a great
player. Derek Harmon. Did Kenneth Grant go? I think Kenneth Grant's another one. We mocked in the first one to go in the first round, and he's in the second round. And I think there's a lot of other QBs as well that went to smaller schools or just not like the big-time schools. I mean, a guy like Kyle McCord. There's another – why am I blanking on the name right now?
I think McCord's probably a day 3 guy.
Yeah, probably too. Yeah.
There's a lot of people like him. That's a name to watch.
Mentality.
Will Howard's another one I want to see where he winds up.
He'll be a good backup.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
I don't know if he'll ever start, but he will be a really, really good backup. backup.
I mean, knowing the NFL, the way quarterbacks go down like flies sometimes, he may end up starting real quick.
That's true.
That's where he goes.
That is true.
I could definitely see him going, maybe not second round, but third round. I could see a lot of those QBs, if teams just want them, they want to be secure.
The only
guys I can see going day 2 are Milroe and Dart.
I agree with that. I would agree with that take. You could obviously be surprised, but I would see that, especially teams addressing the backup quarterback position. Normally see that happening day 3. Day 2, a little bit too rich. I think day 2, you take a risk on guys with a lot of potential, like sky-high potential in Dart and Milroe. I just don't see the sky-high potential with the rest of the class.
All right, fair enough. Those are the questions that we'll have to answer leading up to draft day. Maybe get some changes in perspective, but we'll see. Gentlemen, enjoy your Sunday. We will talk to you tomorrow. We'll do the March Madness. There's some other stuff in other sports that I'm sure we're dying to talk about as well. So with that being said, that's all I got. How about you guys? We're all good?
That's all I got.
Sweet. Let's wrap it up.
From Traver Cox,
Sebastian Friar.
I'm AJ Goncalves saying so long from the desert. We'll see you tomorrow right here on 3 for 60.